enough people that play each platform to make it useful.
But yeah, Miles and I have some kind of plan going on, but feel free to jump in and add your thoughts and stuff. This is very much a work in progress, so nothing's decided yet.
Alright, comms and everything are up on the live portion. And I'll also throw this out in the email to everyone.
Yeah, I sent one email out, and I'm not doing any other ones, so...
Oh, someone doesn't sound happy. Oh, we got Dempsey.
Right, well, I'm going to have to go. Tea time.
Alright. See you later, Mark.
Right.
Sorry.
No trouble.
I'll tell you what, maybe what we should do right now is set the agenda for next week. And we get everybody here and kind of settle the times thing too. That was quite confusing.
Okay. What do you think, Maury?
Well, yeah, we can try and do that. And as for the time thing, I was trying to set it so we can get as many people as possible, and everybody was giving me a different time. So I just went, screw it, we're doing it this time, and if you don't like it, too bad.
I think the time itself works. It was just a matter of communicating it. I was a little unclear. You said 10 Pacific.
Oh, 10 or 11 Atlantic. Or, no, wow, even I'm getting screwed up with all these times. 10 or 11 Alaskan time, which is 10
Maybe
Pacific.
it's just a GMT next time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
agree. Yeah, just post GMT next time for sure.
I'll just go ahead whenever we have the next meeting coming up. I'll just send an email out and I'll also include it in the report. And I'll just standardize the time zones in there so that everyone can look and see and be like, oh, hey, this is my time zone, and this is when I have to be there. I'll take care of that.
Yeah, that would work. Oh, Hav keeps dropping off. Oh, there he is.
Well, I mean, this was kind of impromptu anyway, so, you know.
What was that you said, Horace?
I said this was kind of impromptu anyway, so we'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah, I think so.
Poor Hav, I hope he's not using AT&T.
Yeah, Hav, are you having trouble with cell reception in Chicago?
Well, AT&T, you know, more bars, more places for you to drink in.
I'm having trouble once in a while if you guys are all talking at once. So I lose everything.
Oh, wow.
Cell, but I'm not sure what it is. My first time with the app.
Well, it's good to be able to hear you.
Yeah, it's nice to be heard.
Okay, so just let me know when you're ready to officially start this thing off, and I'll get started.
Alright, I guess we'll kick off with introductions here for those of you as far as YouTube. I'm Vice Admiral Miles Prower. I'm the Imperial Star Destroyer 2 Hammer's Commodore. And, yeah, I sound like an Irish jerk. And yes, that's me drinking here on the stream. But, yeah, pretty much me. Take it away, Pete.
All right, well, I guess I'm Rear Admiral Pete Mitchell of the ISD-2 Warrior. Flagship of the TIE Corps, of course.
This leaves our squadron commanders.
I guess that's me then. My name is Colonel Horace Flockhart. I've been here forever. I was old to start, blah blah blah, moving on.
Have anything for the audience?
Sure. Yeah, this is Commander Havantia of the Sin Squadron.
He had to think about it for a moment. All right.
It's been Epsilon for a long time.
Exactly. All right, so I guess we'll go ahead. We'll get the agenda started. Horace, you're the headliner for that.
Alright, so basically there's no agenda for this week, but I just wanted to give you guys a general overview of what I hope to accomplish with these things, and maybe get some feedback and generally just move things along. I guess the elephant in the room right now is I know there's been some rumblings on the mailing list recently about activity and what we do in the future and all this stuff, and while I don't want to address it, I think we should, because while it's important that everyone has a viewpoint, people need to realize that we are working on these things. It's not done in a vacuum, you know, and this is the first step towards actually doing something about it. General communication, getting people working together, getting units working together is of prime importance, right? If we don't have that, we don't have anything. So regular meetings, regular gaming in a campaign context, I'll get more into that later. But right now, I just want to give you a basic overview of what we're trying to do, and then you guys can jump in after that, okay?
All right.
Go for it.
Okay, so right now, the first step is getting everyone here, which we've kind of done. The next step is to get regular gaming of some description. Now, I'm not going to be platform specific. We need to work out who has what and what's going to be the more logistically possible platforms to use.
I actually have a tracker document I set up for the Hammer specifically for that type of information gathering. I can go ahead and check that out and repost it to everyone, especially since we gathered some new sub-lieutenants and things like that, and make sure that gets updated. I'll also see to it that Pete gets his own copy for the Warrior, and then that way we can look at all that, cross-compare and see, okay, we have these times that are common, we have these platform series that are common. I think that will probably make things a lot easier on the info end.
Yeah, and in terms of using the flight sims and XVT and all that stuff, we need, well, I would like somebody to work on some multiplayer scenarios for that, custom-wise, so we can start having a campaign set up. Now,
Well-
my initial idea for that is to use a map campaign system, whereby we have a map of a sector of each space somewhere, and then we have a overview of a scenario, and we have ship orders, and then we have individual squadron assignments, and the DB can jump in if they want to, and maybe the Hammer's Fist if they can be bothered. But generally we give everyone slightly different objectives to do, and depending on how they do, the campaign moves forward, or we lose, or something. But we do that every 3 months, which is one tour of duty. And then we see how that goes. Now, the beauty of that setup is, if people want to RP and do all that campaign stuff in detail, they can jump right in. If not, they can just play, and we just use the results they have. But it's really important that people actually, you know, engage, otherwise it doesn't work.
Now, It might not necessarily have to be a piece of EH space, because that would imply the defensive. I mean, we could be trying to stretch out into new territory, or we could even have we could even kind of alternate. We have an offensive campaign where we're trying to gather territory, a defensive campaign to where we're trying to protect a strategic resource, or even something that's threatening EH space as a whole. I mean, there's some ideas there.
Yeah, well, the reason I said EH space is because most people are familiar with it. We do have some kind of map somewhere
Systems
in the
manual.
archive.
Systems manual.
Yeah, so we start with what's familiar, and then we branch out afterwards. I want to keep this as simple as possible to start with. That way people aren't overwhelmed and they go, oh, it's too hard, I'm not doing that. Which is something I want to avoid. So I want to make it as simple as possible for people to jump into.
Makes sense.
Yeah. I think to start with, I mean, if you start with the map as a basis and moving ourselves around the map a little bit, even if we don't get MP going, like we could
make
just kind of
single
set
player
it.
missions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or just grab old ones and say,
Well, you can only recycle those old missions so many times. I mean, I've seen Dempsey reflying so many TIE TC missions that I know she's flown all the way back in 2006. I think part of the problem
True.
here is we're also getting a little bit of a stale selection of missions. I think what would help there is getting new missions developed, but also passing on the skills to all these new people so that they know how to make them, so that they get inspiration, they get ideas, and they can work with us, and then they will want to get campaigns going, and then that will wake up the tactical office a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to do like a set of campaign missions for single player, what we need to do there is actually plan out the campaign so we have an actual storyline with briefings and maybe some voice work. And then whoever's doing the missions these days, we can actually work with them and actually make sure they work, test them, and all that stuff.
Impulse was
get this done.
Impulse was making some strides in the custom voice work. So I think Impulse will probably be a big help there.
Yeah, but the way this campaign would work in 3D in a way is it's based on squadron numbers. So you take an active squadron of, say, let's say they have 6 people, right? And in order for the mission to be considered a success, a certain number of that active squadron has to participate, right? That's step 1. Step 2 is we then look at the score. So if they have a certain score and it's determined they meet the objectives, then they win, and then they move on to the next mission, right? And there's a knock-on effect on all the other orders that we do because nothing is done in a vacuum, right? But if the squadron loses for whatever reason, then it has a negative effect on the campaign, and we adjust things accordingly based on the score and other factors. And that's where the map campaign comes in.
Yeah, just a small detail. It sounds I'm on board. I'm looking at the systems manual right now. I'm not finding much of a map necessarily. Is that something we'd have to create, or is it just I'm not finding it?
Well, I know the map has had several iterations, and you might be better checking some of the old newsletters for that rather than the manual, because we've gone back and forth on that stuff so often. The other thing on the agenda that I want to bring up today that is important is we need to work out how to train new commanders to take over the role should we need to, because that's something we are sorely lacking in at the moment, as far as I can see.
I mean, we've had some close calls. I mean, I've been able to spot and pretty much run, like, Alpha Squadron, for example, when things went down last month. But one big thing is getting new talent, new leadership primed and identified so that we can direct them and say, hey, like, have you tried, like, thinking about being a flight member, or taking upon squadron management IWATs, and giving them good practices to put in effect so that they're not just looking at this as just keeping after reports, but keeping after email, but also keeping their units motivated, but also keeping their own motivation and looking to their comm or their wing commander if they need help with things.
Yeah, because just slapping an IWATS together and say, go do that, now you're qualified to be a commander, in my opinion, and this is well known, so I'm not telling anyone something that is going to be shocking, but IWATS in and of itself doesn't really do much. We need something else.
Well, on top of that, it's been pretty static for the most part, but the big thing that it doesn't keep in mind is the human element. I mean, people have things that go on in their lives. And some folks might not feel that they can be vocal with their commander or with their leadership to where they can tell, like, hey, I got this going on. Like, what can we do about this? Some folks will just get locked up and they can't even bother to get an email out. And because of that, we'll end up thinking they're AWOL when they might have something going on where we can accommodate for them or we can help them if we know about it. The big thing is the psychological element.
That's something I tried to do from day one with Alpha Squadron, is say, look, here is what I expect from you guys. Then in return, if you need help with something, let me know. But if you don't let me know, I can't do anything. And I'm more likely to yell at you if, you just disappear.
And Windows decides it wants to update on my streaming laptop. Nice. Oh well, it's rebooting. Now it's the one I use to monitor the stream. The desktop's
fine. So that's basically what I wanted to cover, just the broad strokes of stuff. If anybody has anything else to add, I open up the floor and have at it, guys.
Well, the Hammer MSE is in. I got the recommendations in. A new format too, which I think Woody and Pell will like. I think that'll be a lot more helpful. Might see about standardizing reports formats, maybe putting together templates for everyone. That way you can just slap stuff in and just feed it in. I also pushed out a proposal for a new game platform, which the COO has answered. I'm waiting to hear from the other ones on the Admiralty board, though. I'm trying to see if we can get World of Warships and World of Warplanes in. I mean, I understand that we're a flight-only group, but in a sense, I mean, you don't really see an admiral or a captain, for example, flying a TIE out there. I mean, that's a pretty big target on their back. I mean, warships at least would simulate that capital ship element, on top of the fact that if you still want your air ops, hey, you can do aircraft carriers. But
I'm fine with adding new platforms as long as they get tested and they actually work.
Yeah, I put together a big proposal for it and actually outlined everything. I actually sent you a copy of it in Discord earlier, but I'll see what the rest of the Admiralty board has to say. Other than that, I still have to give a big fat congratulations to Pete for the Warrior winning Raise the Flag. We'll get you dummies next year.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
No, I might need to shake it up at some point and try some different style competition, but it was interesting my first time around.
Yeah, you have the floor, Pete. Anything on the Warriors end?
Not a whole lot of news. Our MSC went out about a week ago. All the awards are back. There's a bunch of them. I would probably have to see. I keep an email thing for all the medals.
No, you don't have to itemize them.
I don't need to go through those, but I got my first gold star.
Hey!
Yeah.
All right.
Had a couple AWOLs with that. I believe Woody mentioned in his reports, like Commander Boyd Grayson and one other I can't remember off the top of my
Splat
head.
Cat AU.
Yeah, there you go. Splat
That's
Cat
a name.
Or Splat Cat Gold, I guess.
Yep. Oh, okay. I get it. Never made that connection before.
Splat Cat.
Yeah, I don't know if that's accurate. I just...
Are they making a Top Gun joke?
Yeah, Pete and I are actually playing beach volleyball in our jeans at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
So which one of you is Goose? Which one of you is going to hit the canopy?
No, we're past that. He's gone. I've mourned him already. But actually, back well, I guess it's about 10 years ago now. I actually did me and my best friend did Maverick and Iceman in for Halloween in the volleyball scene.
Oh man,
I'm not
Nice.
sure if I should post pictures or not. But
that's potential blackmail. I wouldn't.
yeah. Although I was in better shape back then, so.
I know the feeling, mate.
But yeah, that's most of it going on, really. Just we had a discussion on the Warrior email group about trying to come up with some solutions, and nothing too concrete yet. But
You know how
at
it
least
is.
one,
We'll work
yeah,
together.
at least one person liked Horace's idea with the maps and the a little more RP.
I was going to say,
behind.
with the maps, I told Horace a while back when we were first talking about it, have either of you played like the original Wing Commander games? The
Of course.
old ones, like from the early 90s? Like, the very first one had a dynamic campaign of sorts, to where depending on how well you did, like if you had a victory in one place, or if you racked up like so many victories in one system, you might get moved to another system to where the overall strategic picture improves, and if you keep going and keep going, then you'll get to endgame much faster. But if you fail, depending on where the failure's at, like you might be pushed to another system, and you might be able to work your way back up the chain to an improved track, but if you fail so much, it might be to where the strategic picture gets so bad to where it's campaign failure.
Yeah, that's basically what I'm trying to get at with these.
Yeah, I like it. We just got to figure out how to make the mechanics work. But in general, yeah, I think we kind of set a total score goal for a squadron on a mission, or
Yeah,
Maybe
it's
not
sort of-
necessarily, maybe not necessarily score goal, but maybe objective goal. I don't know.
Yeah, objective and participation, because my problem is if you have a unit size of like 6 people, right, and only 2 people participate and they do all the work, then in my view, they should still get awarded for that, but the squadron shouldn't, because you have like 3 people that have sat on their backsides and done nothing.
yeah, well, and part of the issue will be getting even the majority of a squadron that have the same platform. I haven't looked in detail across the whole TIE Corps, but when I was in Kappa, I know there's like maybe 4 that had a shared platform, especially the old platforms.
Okay, well, when it comes to the old platforms, they're cheap, they're on GOG, they're on Steam, and anyone that's really hardened for that, I'm sure Miles or I or somebody else could swap them a copy.
I was
It's not
gonna
going to
say,
cost very much.
I was going to say, I could always just set aside a little bit of a fund, a little bit of a pool, and if anyone needs platforms, it's like, here, it's just like, take one, make one. Like, just down the line. Yeah.
Is there a way you can do that to like buy it and then like hold the license or something and give it away later?
Well,
especially when they go on sale.
Well, if you get
like,
depending on where you go, if they're selling the GOG version, then the GOG version will let you redeem a code. So there might be a way of doing that. Otherwise, I'll just set aside a fund and just see, okay, at the time, like what's the cheapest to get it from, and then just go from there.
Right.
Definitely, probably wouldn't want to try to shoot for the Steam version. The GOG version is the most well-compatible out of the two. Steam, you kind of have some headaches to where you have to swap some files around, or even download files, which pretty much come from the GOG copy, where you can just go straight in and just get the GOG copy.
Yeah, I agree. GOG works a lot better from what I've heard. Maybe if there's a way we can like stock up on shoot, what do you call it? Licenses. You know, every once in a while, the Star Wars names would go on sale for like $2 a pop.
Oh,
if
yeah.
you could, if you could stock up at that time, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, it's also important that people have the sales platform of choice too, whether it's a Steam account or a GOG account or whatever. But I know we have a Steam group, and everybody should be on it at least.
You know, I have a quick question. Do you remember the citation competition that we were running earlier this year?
I don't think I do.
The what kind of competition?
Citation.
It was for squadron citations. The idea
Oh,
was,
yes, yeah. What they call it, like the elite of the TIE Corps. Yes. I
Or
remember
Ace
that.
of the TIE Corps?
Not
No,
Ace
Ace
of the
is-
TIE Corps.
Yeah, this was what squadrons could get the most new citations.
Which, again, begs the problem. With so many missions that have been in circulation since '94, I'm pretty sure almost everyone's probably got them.
Well, I wish I could find the details, but the idea was that we were starting fresh. And was it Sinar who was keeping track? It was essentially that each squadron could start over from scratch. And I guess I bring it up because I'm curious to see if you guys remember if there were any results, increased participation, because that's essentially what we're talking about, right? Trying to get pilots to adopt new platforms and coordinate. And this is an example of that from earlier this year, and I'm wondering if we saw anything from it.
Yeah, it was Sinar that ran it. I don't recall seeing any results, though.
Well, back at that time, it would have been Len Eode.
Yeah,
It wasn't that long ago.
It ended on June 1st,
Oh, okay.
supposedly. So, but it started in March. It's a 3-month deal.
Well, that's the other thing. We don't want, we want to have like a longer campaign, but we also want to have shorter things that people can dip in and out of. We don't want to have one or the other. We need a mix of both. Well, otherwise you get fatigued and people just drop off. So
Yeah, and honestly, when you look at most of the people in the fleet, the FCHG points, most haven't flown most of the missions. I mean, there's only a few that are above 1,000 FCHG points.
yeah,
There's
I
4,000
mean,
missions.
speaking personally, I'm not much of a single player guy because getting the missions to work, even with the battle launcher, was a bit of a pain. So I just didn't bother. My thing is MP. I do that all the time when I can find people to fly.
Yeah. Well, and maybe we can make that work. I mean, you could just go to something as simple as, we need this squadron to get so many, essentially like RTF style points of activity during this period.
Yeah.
If we meet the goal, we win. If we don't,
Yeah, well, the other thing is, with the campaign setup, you need two sides. So we can have the command staff play the bad guys, or people that are eliminated from, say their squadron is wiped out for that particular mission, then they take over and they play the bad guys from then
Well,
on.
one other thing you could do is that you could create like an aggressor squadron out of picked people. Like, let's say you have a mission for Kappa Squadron in the campaign. Like, you could have a Hammer, you could pretty much pull people from the Hammer, kind of like an All-Stars group, and make them the aggressor squadron, since they're the opposing ship.
Yeah, we can work all the details out, but that's basically what I want to go for, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that'd work pretty well. And
Of course, the ideal is to work with other Star Wars groups where possible, but that's Rapier's remit these days. He does all the diplomatic stuff, so we'd have to go through him for that.
The fact that we actually have to have diplomacy with other groups.
yeah, well,
Yeah, I
that'd be
mean,
interesting. We could, well, we could ask for forgiveness rather than permission to, organize a competition without,
well, I mean,
other groups.
I was the recon officer for about 2 years, so I was a diplomatic guy, and well, I don't really want to go into too much detail in public, but let's just say it was very difficult to get people on board, and when they were on board, they made all kinds of demands, and there was conflicts, and it was really difficult to pull anything together.
Politics, pretty much. Politics.
Yeah, politics.
Yeah, I could see the difficulty. I mean, especially if you were trying to make this kind of like a game, we'd have to agree on rules and stuff. But if they just kind of played the bad guys for our game and it wasn't, then they get less value from it than we do. So
Well, we
Well,
would be
I mean-
willing to help them set up a campaign system, and then we could turn around and be like, hey, we can be aggressors
Well-
for your campaign.
See, the
Yeah.
thing is, we had a campaign system. It was called the Interclub Training Event. And that's basically what I'm talking about reviving, is we'd get together every week with, Rebel Squadrons and any other club that was interested and followed the rules, and we'd face off against each other. And depending on how it went that week, the map would change. I mean, it wasn't very complicated.
Well-
you guys know we're the bad guys. You know that, right?
Well, they're the filthy terrorists.
Right.
Yeah.
But, well, one thing we should keep in mind with something like that with Interclub, bear in mind a lot of time has changed since the so-called battle days. I mean, people at that time, they might have been teenagers, they might have been young adults at that time. People's worldviews and things change over time. People sometimes do mature over time. So
Yeah.
if we get Rapier's blessing, I mean, it's worth a shot.
Oh, yeah. But the key point I'm trying to get at with this is all the clubs that are left are in the same boat that we are, right? We're all struggling for members, we're all trying to keep going and relevant and, make sure we keep this place going for another 5-10 years. So we all need to work together if we want to
That's
do that.
exactly my point. I mean, this would be the time for everyone to kind of band together. I mean, all in all, we love these games, we love Star Wars, and we love having community. So,
Yeah, and there's not any one magic bullet thing that we can just pull out, our ears and say, hey, that'll fix everything. It's got to be a concerted effort.
now on top of that, as they say in basketball, the shots you don't take are always going to miss.
It was hot.
Exactly.
Gretzky. Yeah, I agree.
Yep.
Unless you're a
Sounds like a good idea.
stormtrooper, which you're going to miss either way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I would. I mean, this is like way in the future, and it doesn't really have any bearing on what we're discussing right now. But I'd like to bring back some of the other subgroups, like the directorate and all the other stuff that we used to have.
Just for my own edification, are there any comparable Star Wars gaming groups that focus on flight sims from the perspective of the Rebels?
The only one
the
I
Republic?
can remember is Rebel Squadron.
Yeah, they're still around. There used to be a whole bunch of other ones. The New Republic Fifth Fleet was another one. I think they're still around technically. I do know the founder pretty well. I can put out feelers. I mean, I did all this stuff like several years ago when I was doing this stuff day to day. It wouldn't be too difficult to dust all that stuff off. But I need some kind of reason to do so. And the reason I didn't do so was it's basically Rapier's purview now. So I don't want to go around starting things up and, causing issues because it's his job now.
That makes
Well,
sense.
well,
I was just
If
curious.
we put together a solid proposal and a solid operation and propose it, I mean, what can we lose?
Exactly. We could take the initiative first and see how it goes. And actually,
Well,
by
not really
coincidence,
taking the initiative, but putting together a plan and giving it to them and saying, hey, we're willing to do all the legwork for you.
yeah. Well, I'm saying, we could talk to them first before bringing it up to them, or just let them know, hey, I'm going to talk to them and see what we can come up with. It. 'Cause
Well,
just talking doesn't really mean anything fun.
to be honest, I'd be very careful about that. I wouldn't do anything official, believe me. I suggest if anyone does have any contacts in these clubs, keep it unofficial and just say, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we did this? And if it's feasible, let's talk. But
That's kind of my thought. And actually, by coincidence, I just found myself in the Game Ranger room with some people from the Rebel Squadrons and got invited to their Discord room. So
nice.
I'm developing some contacts here.
Nice.
yeah, I mean, I still have some contacts in Rebel Squadrons, but a lot of the guys that I knew that were amenable to working, some of them are still there as far as I know, but a lot of them have moved on, so we'll have to see how that goes.
Well, to complement that, I mean, Cornell both mentioned this in the email earlier. Like, some of us have went to conventions recently, like I've gone to Fantasticon. Some of us have met people for like the 501. Like, we might even maybe be able to like snag people at the 501, say, hey, I mean, this is what we do. Would you guys possibly want to maybe see about getting things together? Maybe starting your own like flight sim club for this. Get the new people interested in it in the 501, and maybe see if we can get the 501 spinning on this.
Yeah, because back in the day, and I'm going to sound really old now, but back in the day, the Emperor's Hammer had a big convention presence. We had a booth every year at various conventions, and we really put effort in. And it just kind of dropped off because it was one or two people trying to fund all this stuff, and we weren't really getting any benefit from it, so we just kind of stopped. If we could get something like that going again, I'd be all for it because...
I mean, the Federation has like local chapters. I mean, I met their Cleveland one at ColossalCon in June, and we could do like a local chapter thing to where like so many people in a certain area, like if there's a con going on there, we could all meet up, get a place or whatever, get dinner and stuff, hang out, maybe see about getting decent uniforms. And
yeah, well,
sit
I
out
don't know if I go the whole uniform kit, but yeah. Speaking of conventions, Miles, I need to like discuss something with you later.
Okay.
When we're done.
Yeah, I think it'd be interesting if there was a convention happening to use it up as a meetup point for at least the U.S. people in the.
Well,
Yeah.
Pelion and all them met like not too long ago.
Yeah, I heard, and crossing the pond is probably a little expensive, but I mean, we can leave it open to them.
We could even have virtual ones.
And this is true. I mean, communication in any form is really important. I mean, this is a huge step, just getting people in the same room talking. I mean, that's huge. I mean, you haven't done that in forever, so.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good step, especially when we fly afterwards. So.
Indeed.
So that was all I really had agenda-wise. I just wanted to give you guys an overview of, like, hey, we have a plan. You know, we do have a way forward. We'd like some input, etc., etc. I think we've covered all that. If anyone wants to add anything, now's the time. But I think I'm pretty much done.
Well, all in all, I'm certainly glad that the few of us that are here have managed to meet together, hear each other, talk to each other. I mean, as you say, the first big step. But if we can keep it consistent, it'll work out.
Yeah. So for next week, let's we'll nail down the time just on GMT so everybody can understand. And if somebody's good at the whole time zone thing, they could add more than that, I suppose, but just make sure it's correct. And I'd say we have some interest, at least with this map-based thing. Let's start a little email chain, at least for the four of us. If we get too big, it becomes difficult, just to kind of iron out the details. And then once we have the details worked out, then we can kind of present that to the rest of the fleet.
Yeah, and I want to keep the map campaign open to the Dark Brotherhood as well. I mean, I don't know if there's going to be any interest there or whatever, because things are kind of, well, I don't know what's going on over there. So
I'll be the liaison for that. I can take care of that. I have some pull.
Yeah, so basically we need to nail down the different platforms we're going to use for the campaign, and then work out how the campaign's going to work, and do a little test run, even if it's just the four of us, to see if it actually works in practice, and then we'll roll out in stages. I think that's a better way to do things, and rather than do an open test and say, hey, we're going to do this thing, and nobody shows up. So, no.
I propose we call our group the Combat Information Center.
Yeah, that's as good a name as any.
The CIS?
CIC.
CIC. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like to cover next week is, how we get our squadrons, coordinated, get some joint training going, joint competitions, getting people in here, talking, the whole 9 yards, how we train new commanders. That's something we need to cover. But that's for next week. I think we're all ready to move on now.
All right. I will make a note of these items, and I will put them in a document, and make sure everyone's reminded of the agenda for next week, and then we'll go from there. One thing, August, after the 5th, my schedule is going to be changing for work. I am going to have Monday, Thursday, and Friday off. Every other day, they're going to have me working 9:30 to 8:30 Eastern.
Wow, okay.
Ooh, so you won't be able to make these in the future, huh?
Well, not voice-wise. Text-wise, yeah. Unless we somehow squeeze things around to where I might be able to come in during my lunch break or something like that. Or I might be able to maybe trade a different schedule, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, before you start talking about trading stuff out, we can move the schedule around if we need to. I mean, the only reason I did it today was because that was more likely for people to show up because it's a weekend. So.
Well, that's our usual day, anyways.
Yeah. I think today probably works for most. So. Maybe I can start working on my doctor's signature and forge doctor's notes for Miles. No, anyway. All right. So should we fly a little?
Yeah, I don't see why not.
Yeah. We have enough here for 2v2 if anyone's interested.
Alright, well, I will go ahead and close out the stream, and I will prepare it for flight operations.